book in 3 minutes, so you can go live. Hello. Howdy, goody go. Welcome to African Experts with Vickie Remoe, the show that brings you African entrepreneurs, practitioners, researchers, and innovators with big ideas and insights on issues shaping African lives. If this is your first time joining us, Kushe, that's hello and welcome in Creole. We're here on Sunday to ask big questions and to learn from African experts and viewers like you. If you're not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, now is a great time to do so you never miss an episode. Before we start the conversation, some house rules. This is a live show. Should we lose electricity or internet connection, please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. I invite you to engage with each other in the comments and to ask questions. And we always make time for questions at the end of the show. So definitely ask questions and our guest will answer them at the end of the show. Also, if you're watching, please do share this conversation on your feed so that more people will join the conversation. All right, well, a lot has changed for African hip hop and Afrobeats musicians over the past decade. They're selling out local stages and international arenas. They're signing brand ambassador contracts with banks and telcos and international development organization, a mixing of corporate and entertainment in ways that we've never seen before on the continent. Even further still, a small select group of hip hop and Afrobeat artists have broken the glass ceiling once reserved for traditional African music legends like Alpha Blondy, Youssou N'Dour, and Lady Blacksmith Mambazo to win that well-coveted world music category in US and European music awards. The times are changing, thanks a huge part to the communities of fans that artists have been able to build on their social media platforms. They drive streams and revenue, and they help with breaking into new markets. Yet this success is still for a very, very small elite group of artists. Most African artists, no matter the genre, never master the crossover equation that allows for continent-wide recognition, global reach, and brand partnerships. Today, I'm talking to someone I would refer to as a hip-hop purist who has crossed over to global success. I'm going to talk to him about what it takes to thrive as a hip hop artist when the ecosystem to support the musicians and the music industry's growth across emerging markets on the continent remain in the nadir despite all of the individual success. African artists still have to do all or most of the work to build a sustainable business around their artistry. Before we talk to him, let's check out the latest from M. Confusion. You're watching African Experts with Vickie Remoe.
Jules, baby.
The shadows came to dance. The nighttime got its own plans. Busy bodies, so busy, moving giddy giddy. Beautiful chaos, you go see a feely feely. Harry, okay wait.
Well, all right. You're watching African Experts with Vickie Remoe. Welcome back. Let's meet our guest, African expert, Manifest, M. aka your favorite rapper's favorite rapper, aka the God MC, aka like one of my best homies. So all of the AKAs you already know. M. Dot, or Manifest, is an award-winning Ghanaian rapper and songwriter. Over the past 16 years, Manifest has released 6 albums. His most recent album, The Gamble, was released in 2019, reflecting on the chances that people take in love and in life. He has collaborations with Burna Boy, Sarkodie, Flea of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Allen, Damon Albarn from the Gorillaz, of course, Erica Badu, Tyga the author, and one of my new favorite artists that I actually only discovered because of working with Manifest, Warlassi, and many, many others. He has a Bachelor of Arts in Economics from Macalester College. And when he's not roaming the world playing out sold out shows, he's giving guest lectures at St. Lawrence University, the University of Ghana, at Alma Mater, Macalester at Assisi University, and Panuber Theatre Summer Arts Institute and Hamline University. He's the co-founder of Culture Forward, a new space and fund committed to making bets and growing progressive creative project. Chai, CCV. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I hope I'm loud and clear.
You're loud and clear for me. First of all, why is this like the first time I'm interviewing you? Like all these years, how is it like the first time we ever get to have a conversation? Why have you been playing me? What's up with that?
Playing you because I mean we have so many conversations we forget that we interview each other in real life. And now this is a lovely first for me. It's like I don't know if I'm going to know how to behave. I don't know how to speak to you in a professional setting.
Hey, the children are watching. We'll have to keep it, correct in that way.
Okay.
Anyway, so the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is you've been here now. I feel like I've been here since the beginning of you returning to the continent. A decade ago when you moved to Ghana to pursue your music career full time. What would you say has been the biggest non-music contributor to your growth and success? How were you able to cross over?
Wow, that's a powerful question. I think it's a combination of things, but let me try and think.
I'm sorry, you're sitting really close right now that your head is cutting off, and I want to see all of your beauty. So if you could just like,
is that better?
Yeah, that's much better. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Sorry. I said it's a combination of factors for me, but I do think that being an independent artist and doing it myself, I think. I was talking recently in another space and was talking about the fact that I've learned to collect information about the audience, about the demographic that I deal with. So in a sense, part of growing this business in the social media age has been actually being a data collection agency as an artist. So one of it, some of it is anecdotal. Some of it is actual statistics in terms of having to reach people, in terms of what is working, what's not working, and then in terms of doing shows. So I think that has been a critical thing, really being able to go direct to consumer or to audience and having an engagement to understand sort of what is working and what is not working. I think for me that has been a critical piece and I wouldn't even have noticed as much until I started working with corporates who then sought to use their influence and bring value to them. Sometimes it will be approached and they'll say, yo, we want you to do A, B, and C. And I'm like, well, you want this, but A, B, that I can show you that this, that, and the third will get you more of A, B, and C, not in the way that you want. So I think for me, it's been the most critical aspect of it, like this idea of knowing the demographic and the psychographic, the thinking of the people that I'm supposed to reach, and that kind of data collection is constantly ongoing, and I engage in something on Twitter, for instance, in which I ask questions, any random thing that comes into my mind, but that comes from an understanding that my engagement over the years since 2012, coming back home, has been really trying to understand what moves the audience, and so being a data collector is a very underrated part of being an artist.
It's first of all, what's incredible about that is like, that I do comms and marketing for a living. So, you're like, oh, consumer insights. When you say data, I'm like, oh, this is out here you're gathering consumer data and like intelligence. This is like you're gathering intelligence for what? Research and development? What?
Yes. No, essentially, yeah. I mean, both creating. Yeah.
No, this is like a level of the side of making music or being an artist that like I've never even thought about. Like, of course you would, but generally I think when we're thinking about the work that creatives do on the music front, we don't really see them as direct, like producing products for consumers, right? We see them as kind of like creating art, and then there's an audience, and an audience is different from a consumer. You know what I mean? So it's like we think about the audience on the stage, but not as consumers consuming a product. So that's just really, I feel like next level. I feel like somebody's going to be like, what? Okay, so would you then say that the biggest impact on music, whether on the production side or the promotion side, has been technology?
Yes, absolutely. Technology is an equalizer. Technology has democratized how music is made and distributed. Technology has had a tremendous impact on my world. My career is made possible because of social media and technology. I would never have started if there was never a MySpace. I would never have put a song out to the public. For me to even overcome the idea that I needed a label or somebody with a big budget to help me reach the consumer, technology changed everything in my world, in my business, and it's still changing everything. If you look at in the current climate in Ghana, some of the most successful, most buzzing artists or songs are coming from people who do not initially have any form of formal infrastructure around them. They go viral, quote unquote. Technology is allowing them to do whatever they are doing and then go to audience, and then it morphs into something on its own. Right. Little Nas X basically like use technology to design his career. So yes, absolutely, it's so critical in my business and for me personally, because I've never been on like say a major label. I'm not seeing what's happening here, but I know you have a lot of background stuff, but I just got some water and you don't know how I got it, and it's amazing. I just want to just gave me this water.
Oh, the infrastructure, my brother. This is the infrastructure you were just discussing. So we like to see. I'm glad that we're seeing the infrastructure doing what it does to make the manifestation. I am here with you. Our ancestors are pleased.
Excellent. Anyway, yeah. So long story short, technology key. Amazingly key. And for Africans who as there's still that great gap in sort of infrastructure in terms of both creating and distributing and marketing and resource and capital, technology has to be used, has to be taken advantage of in this most in the best of ways to really close the gap as an equalizer. Otherwise, I almost cut. Sorry, this is a nice show. Otherwise, we're in trouble.
It's just fascinating because, so much of my work is like, I work with startups, et cetera, et cetera. And, one of the things that usually gets startups to start at all is that, they can't test their product, right? They can't test their product. So you have the product, you're like there in the lab, you're creating, you're producing, you're making the product. But until you can test the product, you don't know if it's a viable product, right? So they always talk about having like a minimum viable product. So as you're talking about how artists are now being able to use technology to disrupt whatever status quo, gatekeeper, do you like my song? Do you not like my song? Do I need a video? Now it's like what you're saying is technology is allowed for disruption in a way where the artist can produce and go directly to the consumer and test it, right? And maybe it'll hit, maybe it won't hit, but if it hits, that's it. It's over, right? In the sense that
it's over, because at that point the value point has changed. The sort of what you attract in terms of business is changed. You as a business entity become so valuable that all the opportunities you never saw that was possible are now flying left in, karate kick, etc., coming at you. By that point, is a difficult point to get to for most people, and it doesn't really happen that magical point. And most people have to build intentionally to get there. And I'm not saying there's nothing intentional about testing your product early, etc. But for some, it just happens. You understand? For some reason, somebody might go on TikTok and use it, but a lot. For 99.9% is intentionality and some kind of structured outreach, and then a bit of luck, like you said. The consumers determine it at that point in time. But yeah, absolutely, this disruption is ongoing constantly.
Okay, so right, you were talking about just being an independent artist, and I feel like that probably is the case for me. Like when we in the movies, because some of us only know what the music industry is in the US because we watch it. We watched a movie. So in the movies, when an artist releases a record, there's music distribution, there's a whole ecosystem around distribution and promotion, right? The records get sent somewhere, and there's a machine that works to make this a success, right? But most artists, like you just said, they don't have this. I mean, even this idea of having a record label, like who is signed to a record label on the continent? Like how many people have ever had that? And even if you do have that, it doesn't even begin to look like anything as what people in the US might have, right? Mm-hmm. Exactly. So what are the parts of that ecosystem that already exists, say, in a market like Ghana? And what are the parts that you have had to build for yourself? And how long has it taken you to build the manifest creative ecosystem that makes it possible for you to, like, whether it's the build your social media following or curate the following or sign the contracts with MasterCard and, ABSA, I'm like UNICEF, I'm like, who, where, how is this happening? So how much of that existed already or exists now, and how much of it have you had to build, and what components have you had to build?
Vickie, since I first met you till now, the level of change in the infrastructure is incredible. When I came here, I felt like it was very bare minimum. I felt like as much as Ghanaian music was getting ahead in other places on the continent, and it was the era of Azonto and virality, the truth is the business infrastructure was very small, whether it's in the performance space or whether it was even people taking their music, that music that was on GhanaMotion.com and YouTube, to be on platforms. It was still in its primitive form. Artists were just concerned with songs blowing so they can do show. They can play at all these shows organized by all these event organizers and break it in. There was no idea of making. At that time, it wasn't streaming. At that time, it was buying. Like buying from Amazon or iTunes or whatever. There was no concept. So there were people at that time who would come in and literally be selling people stuff that they could do by themselves. Like, oh, we can get your stuff on iTunes. We can get your stuff. It was like stuff that is now demystified to any kid in Ghana. Any artist in Ghana now knows how to get their stuff on Apple Music, etc. They don't need anybody major to do to help them with that. So in terms of that, there has been progress in terms of a demystification of how to take your product to market in places where everybody has it. The malls. So let's say the Apple Music, Spotify, etc. They are the malls and the Makola markets and whatever is of it. Every artist now can do that on their computer. They know how to get to there. So there's not an issue. Now, in terms of creation as well, I think a lot of people are creating anywhere, hotel rooms, etc. because technology allows you not to have the most expensive equipment to be able to do high standard stuff. Now, in terms of what is different now is, yes, African music and Africa in general, and Ghana specifically, since I'm here, is becoming sexier and sexier in the world. What that means is that a lot of business opportunities being seen. So a lot of the music here from every popping artist from Ghana, damn near everybody, is distributed by a major distributor that is not connected to the continent, myself included. The Gamble was distributed by a major distributor that is in Europe. So now there's, in that supply chain, something else is happening, whereas they want to get in. So most of us might not be signing label deals, but we'll be doing distribution deals in which we'll get a distribution advance, which helps you with your marketing and stuff, billboard, so that you're not funding everything yourself. But that way, but they don't have that much control over it. But what it is that you are getting an advance, you're getting paid in advance for your work because somebody else sees potential in it. That is a model that is currently the dominant model for anybody who's popping. So for any kid here that's popping, whether it's Yao Talk, Jackie, etc., immediately they start popping, one of those companies will come to them, strike a distribution deal. If they keep popping, they might strike a label deal. Like Sony is related to Jackie, for instance, here, the Forever Girl. And those, back in the day, you used to take forever to make deals. These days, these deals can be made so quickly because once the thing is working, they want to cut in. So it's changed. The world has come to us more. All these bigger companies are they are moving away from these saturated spaces and looking to the new market of music, which is cool. But there's still a huge gap. No African artist is doing, the top African artists are not doing even close in terms of streaming to some of the mid top American artists, because it's a different kind of consumer culture. But everybody wants to, everybody wants to get to the connection before it explodes. So it's a very different place now.
I mean, at the end of the day, anything that has to be powered by the internet, if the way that people consume is through the internet, then being an African artist that's making African music for an African audience, that's like your primary target, in markets where internet penetration are what they are, and also people are living, for the most part, $2 a day, $3 a day lives. I mean, as beautiful and glorious as, the headlines might read, the reality is that your audience, some of them, a huge part of them, are making decisions over whether I top up my phone or whether I eat today, right? And so somebody can love you. Like, I'm not going to love you so much, I'm going to watch them. Like, facts. I love you, but I don't know if I can watch your YouTube video 5 times on replay, or, that $9.99 on Spotify. You know what I mean? Like, there's only so much when we're talking about bread and butter issues, that in terms of the arts that we can consume. So in a way, African artists who are making African music that's powered by the internet, which is, like you said, the global marketplace, you can't, overcome until we all overcome, right? You're not going to be... No, it's just like, so we're all in the struggle. Like, we're all in the struggle. Like, we're all here. If there's no electricity and my phone is dead, I can't stream your stuff, right? And like, I'm not about to be making, let me listen to this thing until my phone dies. So yeah, I definitely think that you can't, you can take the African music out of Africa, but you can't take your audience out of Africa. Like, the Africa of things will still hit you no matter who you are, and that's just right.
So another interesting thing, wait, is there 2 of me in the show, or is just me?
It's just
me. Okay, I don't know, I guess I'm looking at it backseat. So you mentioned
water, or are you drinking water?
It's water. No, it's pure water. It's pure water. not pure water as in the water on the sachet, but purely water. Now you mentioned something which is interesting when it came to taking, you can take African music out of Africa, but or whatever, etc. Now, another huge development is sort of the Black diaspora and them being that pivotal in sort of the African music industry, to the point where some of the top acts can go and do tours in like Europe, Asia, and all sorts of stuff. Because the Black diaspora, I'm not even just saying the African diaspora, the Black diaspora has embraced the music.
The global Black diaspora, absolutely. Yeah,
the global Black diaspora. And that honestly is changing the game in the last 2-3 years in terms of what is possible in terms of earnings. Because they can stream, they don't have the technology problem. They can buy tickets, they have a consumer culture, they can do all stuff. So that has also become new goals, is that you become big on the continent, but to really make those earnings, you need to like resonate in the Black diaspora to a certain degree. But to resonate in the Black diaspora, you have to resonate locally on the continent in a way in which you are cool. Yeah.
Right. I feel like it's such an interesting dynamic, right? Because
Yeah.
back in the day, there was this false narrative that people thought they wanted to go to like, I'm a musician, I get a visa, I want to go to overseas and overstay. You know?
Yeah, tragic.
But
That was a
but
mistake from
yeah,
yeah.
but that doesn't advance your music career, right?
Mm-mm.
Because the what fuels what gives you your creative license and your creative authenticity is home, right? You have to be creating for a home, nitty gritty audience of people with the slangs and the language and the like gutter and like all of that grit. That it has to have that vibe and that feeling, which you can't get if you're eating McDonald's all the time. It just don't happen. And for it to resonate outside, right? For it to have the flavor, it needs to be cooked inside, and then you take it outside.
Absolutely.
But I think it's a weird thing because when Africans usually think of prosperity, right? We think of like leaving to go overseas, like physically leaving, right? It's
Yeah.
only I think for music and like these kinds of the creative arts that you have to be close to source and at home for it to work, even though your audience is now like it's like the audience that has the money and the audience
Yeah.
that validates you. You have one audience that validates you and say that's the correct guy, and then the audience is like, oh, is that the correct guy? Okay, great. Like it's almost like the people who come home for December. They look at what the whole face. No, seriously, right? They come home for December. Whatever we're playing locally at the party when that global Black diaspora comes home, whatever we're playing in the parties, that's what we're going to go back with when you go to New York and Paris, et cetera, and you hang out with your Jamaican friends and you hang out with your Trini friends. What you're going to play for them, it's what you heard that December. And so that's how the music then, Rihanna's playing like Burna Boy on her IG feeds, and you're like, we have made it! Africa is in the building.
Exactly. I mean, I think everything is said. I mean, the ditto, absolutely. It's crazy. I mean, we still have hopes of developing, I guess, the African music industry for it to actually be properly self-sufficient, right? Where it's like to really make it beyond, you can still just focus on the continent the way an American artist could, or the way even like a Brazilian artist or a South American artist could. The Latino market is way more advanced than ours, and but like you said, the African music industry, like other businesses, does not exist out of Africa. It exists under African conditions. So I think it also should remind people that yes, you almost have a responsibility to be also demanding the kind of changes that benefit businesses across board.
Yes. So like your politics has to be correct. Because sometimes artists forget that, like, because being an artist means that you can access certain places of power, right? Being famous, you then can go and be with the political class, right? Now you're hanging with the political class, you're hanging out with corporate class, you're making new friends, right? But people get so caught up with being at that table that they don't use that access to basically then fight for social justice, right? And, lobby for things like, okay, why are the internet tariffs so high? I know I'm your brand ambassador, but these tariffs got to come down because they are, listen, my people need to get online. How can we make it better for them? People forget that, and that's why I think these conversations are important, because you're like, no, really, like, we're all in this together. You can't get at the hood. You know what I mean? Like, we are all in the hood. You may leave and like go to a different side of town, but hood conditions persist, and so you really know.
Absolutely. The African artist, as both a creative and a business person, more than in other places, should have a vested interest in society progressing.
Mhm.
You know, like it's there was such it's such a greater urgency about it. We have not
Right.
even reached a level where art is a thing of decadent. We're in a decadent society where people are like, no, no, no. We have never reached there. The marginal change in people's pockets change
Yeah.
behavior. People are making decisions between Pampers and something else. Like so, if you're an artist, if nothing at all, like I go online and all the people want is Momo, Momo. Oh, Charlie, what's up? Today some Momo. You understand? You know, so and I understand because Charlie boys they hung, girls they hung. Like, you know, it's you and that is why it's powerful when as much as we
Mhm.
want to sing and dance, it's powerful when you can still make people sing and dance and speak to their African experiences.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, the consumer market in Africa is like tough. Like, you know, life is tough for the majority of people. So we should as creators and creative um entrepreneurial creatives should do our best to help in the advancements, whether it's policies, etc. Correct politics, correct, like, yeah, lobby for stuff that is going to benefit everybody else. It's in your, if nothing at all, it's in your interest.
Right.
Yeah.
So, speaking of politics,
Which one?
no, I kid, I kid. We ain't gonna go there. But I wanted to talk about, I feel like there are artists, and then there are like
Mm,
branded artists, right? Like artists who are more than just like I make music. And for me, at least, observing you over the last 10 years, um,
mm.
I feel like you have a very distinct aesthetic, a very distinct brand, and a
Thank
very
you.
distinct platform. How can branding give an artist more opportunities or limit them? And have you ever had to walk away from an opportunity because it didn't fit your aesthetic or your brand?
Yes, to all of it. Well, first, I guess, first the idea. Now, I was trying to pull up a picture of, it was my grandmother's 90s. It's six today, so I
Oh
was
yeah.
trying to pull a picture to show you a screen of my dad, Della, and I, three
Mhm.
generations. So I was going to show you. But
Send
anyway, we're talking things to change people's lives. Let
it
me
to my
stop with that.
WhatsApp. Send it to my WhatsApp after the call.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. What's up? Um, yeah, I've always, for the longest time, I mean, I think it's palatable in this conversation. For the longest time in Ghana, I went out here. Why did I say for the longest time? That's not good English, is it? That's like pigeon and
You're
English.
allowed. You're allowed. You're
Yeah,
M-Dot. You're allowed.
yeah, I know that's like pigeon and English put together. But for a long while, I was sort of I would always have kind of like detest the use of the word branding in Ghana. Everything, hey, Charlie, it's about branding or branding, because people spoke about it like it was something you wear or something very surface level. They didn't understand that the idea of branding has to be so like so the way Apple is, the way all these things are, they has to be so on point and so you and so authentic and so believable. It has to be so believable and compelling that thinking that branding is like wearing a costume is off base. So I think I have intuitively always understood that, because also I have to be acknowledge my privilege and like go in experiencing other places where you would see that, right? Where I'm not seeing it from just a distance, but I'm seeing it happening in real life and seeing different versions of that. If you were to ask the average person, when they say drip or they think brand, they think of the person copying what Chris Brown or whoever looks like. That is what they think is a brand. The brand is something that is still aspiring towards that very American, Euro American ideals that
Yeah.
is so Hollywood for them. And they're not even looking at the disruptive spaces like people like J. Cole and other people who are increasingly so successful business wise. What they are creating, they just it's a one way thing. But I've always understood it. But I think the difference is, like, I think over time as I came back home, it became clear to me that as much as I understood it intuitively and I wasn't forcing certain things, whether it's an appearance or in the kind of music I made, I still had to go about a certain kind of intentionality for people to really understand the value, for not to put it below on a below pedestal, but to put it on a higher pedestal. Like I represent that level of unapologetically excellent African, new, contemporary, whatever thing. I represent it, and I feel like not to be on some whatever, but I feel like I was the way the trends are changing to favor me, from Wakanda to all these things. The trends over the years, I make jokes. They have trended towards what I have always stood or believed in. Whether this year of return, all of this stuff is coming in my favor. So yes, the understanding of who you are and what you choose to be and the value of that has great benefits to you. That was the long answer for the first part. The second part was about have I had opportunities I've said no to?
From opportunities because of this commitment to an aesthetic.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I'll give you 2 to 3 examples. 2 of them will be quick, 1 will be long. One example that's quick is not to put them out there, but recent years I've had opportunities from betting companies coming to me. Absolute no for me.
Yeah.
It doesn't align.
I'm not a celebrity, but I get contacted to do marketing for betting companies all the time. Yeah. But as an African person, it goes against my values because I'm just like, how am I going to use my talent to get my people to go gamble? In this economy, I just can't. So,
yes,
this is why we're like this. This is why we're like this because
exactly. Yeah, and no judgment to somebody else, but I'm not about to money cannot move me to do just anything. And that clarity always brings about bigger business. It is not definite, it's not guaranteed, but it makes it possible. I am not the guy that is shucking and jiving for a CD.
Is that also because is there a privilege that you have to being who you are, the kind of family you were born into? Do you think that being able to make that decision, right, where you can walk away from certain things is because you're who you are, right? Or is this because you're not a hungry belly, so let's say angry belly artist, as in you didn't get into music because you were starving, right? Let me see if I can make a quick buck. It's never ever been about the money. Do you think maybe that influences the capacity you have to walk away from certain things, and money not being centered in the music you produce, the work you do, and the partnerships?
Money is not centered in the music I produce, but money is centered in my participation in the music business. So there's the difference. Well, I think short answer is no, because the kind of, perception versus reality, the kind of personal sacrifices I have made in terms of comfort, people never understand. But yes, I benefit from even a perception that I am doing better than I am when I am not. So, and I would love it when I enjoy that.
It's the drip.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about now, currently. I'm just talking about the fact that in different moments in time in my career where I might have been making personal comfort or luxury sacrifices,
people
because
don't know. Right.
People would not know that, but fortunately for me, because I come from a certain background, they would still think everything is all good, and I prefer that. Because if you have an aura of desperation around you, it's not attractive.
Right.
So definitely that plays a role. But in terms of the actual reality, nah. Now the actual reality is the fact that I'm getting closer and closer to big business in music, right? And so that also means that yes, I'm moving further and further away from desperation and more into bigger thinking stuff. You understand? So I'm happy. I'm happy to be finding myself in that space as I'm getting older, because it would be such a tragedy having put in so many years into this thing and not seeing that kind of possibility. Some of the conversations that come across my table right now, some of our mutual friends, our mutual friend who's Pastor Leon, and he called me 2 days ago, and then about something that he wanted me to, an opportunity, and then I had been coming up with a certain idea already. And then I sent him a voice note. He got excited. It's a very big idea that could have such a big impact on something. But it's lovely to be in these kind of positions now to engage with even well-meaning friends and other people in ways to make a difference, whether it's for ourselves or for our bigger like society. So yeah, long and short is yes, the no there. You have to learn to say no for to be able to get the right things coming to you for a long time. You say yes. Look, everybody has a price. They say, I'm not going to be mad at you. If you're an artist and something that you don't believe in comes and offers you 5 million, and you feel like you're going to grin and bear and do it, and this will change your life. You don't care if you have a career after, do it. That's your own cross to bear.
Right.
You understand? And it's fine because you might never see money like that ever. So yeah. So, but I mean, nobody's going to put like $50,000 in front of my face or 100,000 and dangle.
I like how you doubled it real quick, because in your mind you were like 50K. That's actually kind of small. Let us double the number bigger.
Yeah, no, but I'm actually telling you no. I'm doubling it to say that even at 100K, I'm rejecting something that I'm not whatever.
Let's add the numbers, because even
50K, I mean, if you want me to sell out, you really have to be talking like some lots of millions.
Numbers, the numbers have to make sense. It has to be mathematical.
Yes. They have to make sense, because look, a person like me, yes, I might not do certain things regardless of the numbers, but also people have to put themselves in positions where sometimes you make certain decisions as a crafty person, right? To say that I'm taking this, I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul, whatever it's been done in the world. Yeah. But anyway.
Anyways, talking about opportunities, we're going to take a quick break because I really want people to see your latest video, Confusion. And then after that, we'll talk about occupying new spaces and opportunities right after this break. You're watching African Experts with Vickie Remoe.
Space between confused and amused, despite sins in my rear view. Little kid, you want your curfew, and I think it's fast too. We can pass it with you, and you lost your innocence. In a sense, you are rude and you're all intense. How can I blame you? And life is a puzzle when they left you no clues. The whole system on hold up. Even the adults know be grown up. We all just the rent, not own up. Bone shaker flows go slow when we roll up. Confusion all child when the system all choke. Life pulling.
You're watching African Experts with Vickie Remoe. Welcome back to the show. If you're just joining us, you're watching African Experts. I'm your host. With me on the show today is M. Dot, otherwise known as Manifest, and we're talking about the music industry, specifically hip hop, which some of you might sometimes call Afrobeats, which it isn't, but we are going to carry on this conversation. You were talking earlier about how now you're being to occupy different spaces and different opportunities are coming your way because of the way you've positioned yourself and how you've kind of grown that ecosystem around your music and your brand. Now, before we continue, I wanted to ask you, do you think that having this Afrobeats label has helped with, say, mainstream Western music industry becoming more comfortable with including us? Like, they don't have to compete with us. They don't have to give us equal footing and status, because Afrobeats now allows them to say, oh, it's not like hip hop. It's not this other genre. So we don't have to worry. It's like now this separate thing. They don't have to fear. They can just create like a separate category. Do you think that having the label for this like all-encompassing label, or the way they try to create like anything that's coming that's like a little bit hip hop, a little bit
moving away from world music to
do you think having Afrobeats as a genre or as a segment, does it help in any, like, is that a value to people like you who are like hip hop artists, or is it something that maybe does it harm the industry in any way?
It's absolutely amazingly great for everybody. It's an identity thing. You know, in marketing, it's like when we used to go to stores, you see a section. It says this section is fruits, this section is vegetable. Having that kind of marketable identity for contemporary African music has been of great help, because a lot of, whether you're a hip hop artist or not, you're still using music of Africa, and you might be doing stuff on beats that people will be like, "Oh, that's isn't that Afrobeats?" you know. But at the end of the day, is an all encompassing, I guess, term for contemporary African music, more than it is of a specific kind. Because Amapiano is being looked at as Afrobeats, for instance, now, but they have what it is. It's Amapiano, but it is, you know what I mean. So, so what I'll say is that, yeah, it's always great. What artists have to be careful about is not to fall into what I like to call the reggaeton trap, where it's like something pops off, and then because it pops up in a certain way, everybody wants to be repetitively squeeze the light out the what do you call it, the life out of that same one-way lane. It is possible to exist in a different way in the same space, right? Like, you know, America, as funny as it is, really still understands itself. Like, Southern hip hop is blossoming, but the truth is they have so much from everywhere that's always still killing it, whether it's Kendrick from the whatever, and they have so many other kinds of music that's also still killing it. We cannot fall into this trap of one way, and our identity as a continent and our music and our creativity is one thing. One thing might get us into the door, but then we are like, oh, okay, you open the door, check how many different rooms there are in the house.
I really appreciate it. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
I really appreciate that you said that, because one of the things that was, I feel like 5 years ago, because of, and I'm going to use Timaya as an example, because I feel like 5-6 years ago, he was really big. There was like a Timaya sound, right? That you would hear it all the time. Or you hear like an Azonto sound, that one song that pops, right? And then people get this thing in their head, especially when it was Nigerian artists. People then start going to, like, other African artists will now start going to Nigeria, thinking that that sound was the equation that they needed to then, like, you know, like, take on these affectations, right? And now start speaking a pidgin that is not even their pidgin. That the way that thing used to, like, bother me, because it's like, it was like a cultural hegemony, right? Because Nigeria is big, it is powerful, it is forceful. What people don't understand is what makes that stuff works in Nigeria is because of the authenticness. It's authentic to Nigeria, to a very specific group of people, maybe in Lagos, maybe in Warri, maybe in Calabar, wherever. It is authentic to them. You try to put on their shoes, it is not going to work, because your audience doesn't want that from you, because they're already getting it there. You have to bring your own unique. And I know when you, like, I know every time you were going to Nigeria, you know, I was a little worried, you know, in those early days. I'm like, oh God, I hope you gonna come back manifest, because I'm not sure. But it's like, you would go and come back, and still, in fact, I feel like the more you left and came back, the more centered you were on the local. It's like the more it gave you vim to, like, be like, no. Like, let's really, I feel like some of your most Ghanaian albums actually came after, like, some international stuff that ought to have kind of, you know what I mean? Make you feel like, yeah, it's like you went out there and you're like, oh, hell no, I ain't even giving enough, you know, I need to bring a lot more into this. And so that was just so beautiful to see, because I think, yes, what African artists need to understand is everything that's global right now was local somewhere else. It's like the thing with brands, right? Like, you think about Coca-Cola, people think of Coca-Cola as this international global brand. It's somebody's local juice somewhere in some community. That is their palm wine. Coca-Cola is their own palm wine that somebody has now grown from some small palm wine and made it an international beverage. So you have to go and find your own apeteshi, your own palm wine, and bring it, and then you grow it locally before it can be. But you can't now say you're going to make Coke. We already have Coke. We don't need we don't need it. So authenticity is so important. Now, okay, we already talked about this a little bit, about how, like, yeah, individuals can grow, right? Like individuals like you can grow, you've created this ecosystem around yourself. But what are the things that Ghana music industry or Ghana hip hop music industry of Afrobeats in general, what do we need on the infrastructure side locally within each economy? Like in Ghana today, what do we need in the industry to make sure it's not just individual artists that are becoming successful, but that we're creating whole industries that create employment? Because let's be honest, right? Unemployment is still ridiculous. A lot of people come out of schools and they just can't find jobs when the creative industries like have so much potential. But our politicians, them, they don't see us, like they don't see these places. So what needs to happen? Like to these industries, how do they need to grow or evolve so that we're having more all the other parts, so you don't have to keep doing all of the parts, right? How do we create an ecosystem, an industry, so that they're jobs? So like all these parts you're playing now are not parts that you're doing, but they're jobs that people are actually doing and getting paid for.
Yeah, no, I mean, brilliant. What's crazy is that's basically one of the ventures or businesses, or I guess things I'm involved in now, seeks to be a solution to this. So I have a partnership with Impact Hub, or will specifically, in which we're trying to replicate that kind of startup tech kind of thing system in the creative world, right? Where things can be taken from good ideas to like great global commodities, right? Because that's where it has to go. Because you have to understand that there's not going to be much in terms of benevolence of a government or entities until the thing is valuable. So people have to understand that, yes, it's the business aspect of it. I always, this is the example I use, right? And maybe it's not the greatest of examples, but because they still also have some things to do. But when we in our parents' generation, if you said you were bringing a footballer home, they'll say, how these vagabond poor people. In our generation, even initially, it was such a far-fetched thought. My mother would not let me play football because that's what the Kumalas, the vagabonds, did. Dude, before we realized the Michael Asians, etc., football and African footballers became world class, it has become like a professional. Like, wow, if you can do that to the highest level, that's an amazing thing. Because the truth is, they see the value beyond the fame. They hear the amounts these people are earning per week. So part of it is taking creative work to those values. When I was doing the Money Talk series last year, one of the greatest conversations was talking to Ibrahim and Muhammad, the artist. Because what people then realize is when he's an artist who puts up installations and does all these things, when he's talking about selling stuff for $1 million and all this kind of stuff, it becomes real that, yes, this art is not play thing or just entertainment. Come, let's throw some coins at you. So part of it is building infrastructure to help arts become much more valuable in business, right? And that means one of the first things that has to be done is kind of finding like clearer vehicles from local to the global pipeline, right? So because we're already connected, so it's like we're already connected to that ecosystem, but we're not connected in a way in which we are like more proactive. Is them coming and saying, oh Charlie, we've seen something nice, let's come in, whatever. Now we have to figure out ways in a very long term to make it big and bigger and bigger and bigger. So definitely like working on that project Culture Forward, which we call Culture Forward, that's the name of it. It's sort of part of that kind of thing. Then more of that has to be done. Well, but there's still always space for like governments, whether local or national or entities, to really make contributions, right? Now, performance infrastructure or infrastructure that is built with, people are coming into countries not because of the churches or because of the politics. They're coming because of the artists, the music, the culture. That is the value. You understand? The foreign exchange, the money that is always leaving our countries are going to be coming in when people are being drawn in. So they have to understand the intrinsic interest in aid. intrinsic value of art, and how economically, not intrinsic in terms of just enjoyment, quality of life, but just economically. You understand? The national identity is shaped by, Nigeria has so much political whatever, but because of their forays in music and in the art space, the the Nigerian identity is more than just a failed state. Understand? So these governments and entities have to understand the power of these things, and we have to understand the power as entrepreneurial creatives or creatives who have a business agenda, and kind of be insistent and move on value, move on potential value, make the value be seen, have our arguments clear. Yes, you might not have to write out a business plan per se sometimes as an artist in certain situations, but mentally or orally, what your presentation should be like a business plan, like A, B, and C, and this, that, and third, blah. Not selling rotten tomatoes, not this performance in public stuff, but privately, how compelling is your vision from an idea to commodity? Like, make it a compelling thing. So I'll put it on the artist as well. I'm not always looking at what others can do, but what artists can do. The more artists see themselves as a business, not somebody trying to enter a business, the more you will move differently, and the more you'll be compelling. Like in any business, people go and pitch to investors and all that, and people are trying to figure out, why should I put my money into what you're doing? And the more compelling and believable what your plan is, the better you stand. So I think we're going to begin to move more into that space. And also another thing is that there needs to be more artists like dealing with people in other industries, whether it's tech, to find out new innovative ways for distribution, marketing, whether it's other artists, so that your visual identity, whether it's like what they are creating for you, whether it's filmmakers, because that, once again, visual identity, these are things that can make you break through. That has nothing. So cross-disciplinary, collaboration meant to like
hey,
meant to elevate the game. You have to elevate. You have to elevate it. Yeah,
absolutely. I do think that like this multidisciplinary collaboration. So, I have a show, I have a movie, somebody making song, and that song being licensed in my movie that gets on Netflix, right? So now it's not just I'm making money for the movie, you're making money because your song is on there, like all of these things. I totally agree with you. One thing that's definitely clear is that, Ghana is not going to be the next China. Nigeria is not going to be the next India. And all of the things, sometimes people talk about manufacturing, like, this is what we just need to manufacture. But in that, they forget that, like, what we really have that's uniquely ours that no one can take is our culture, right? Like, there's no way you are going to manufacture Azunto somewhere else. There's no way. Like, it's not possible. Do you understand what I mean? And people who produce cultural products, right? Whether it's like, something like kente, like whatever it is, a cultural product, those are the Coca-Colas in our economies, right? That at the end of the day, we have to find a way to take those products global. But government entities absolutely have a role to play, right? In terms of creating the conditions for people like you to thrive, right? Creating the conditions for people who are creative entrepreneurs to thrive. Sometimes it's a question of like respect, right? Like just respecting that this is a viable sector, right? And making allocations for it to thrive the same way you would make allocations for health and education, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, one of the things I think that Nigeria did several years ago, was the investment the government actually made in the film industry, because they realized that, listen, people are watching our movies in the Caribbean. They're watching our movies globally. The movie industry is creating like they had no choice but to reckon with the power of the film creative sector. And I do believe that, yes, money talks. And politicians are always late to the party. but yes, people like you then are like those kind of ambassadors for the sector, right? Who can connect the dots and say, listen, we're job creators, we're job creators, we're collaborators, we're exporting the local to the global. At the end of the day, you know, people end up wearing a hat the way you're wearing it because it's like, oh, that's what Manifest had on. So now I'm in Korea and my hat, and no, I don't even know why this thing is on this. Is he? What is this? I'm wearing it. Like, I don't know. They have no cultural significance, but you know, like, you know, they. I was gonna say a bad word. You see, like, you're on my show and I've never said a bad word. You know, they roll with you. They roll with you.
I know what you're going to
say. In Korea, they'll be like, I roll with Manifest. Anyways, before we end the show, we're going to take a quick break. If anybody has a question, now is your time to ask your question to Manifest. We'll give like 5 minutes for questions because I think we were a little tardy to the party today. So if you have any questions, ask them now. We're going to take a quick break. We'll watch like the end of Confusion, which is the latest music video from Manifest, and we will come back. You're watching African Experts with Vickie Remoe.
Hurry, okay, wait, go slow, fast pace. Let the girl on the seesaw. I did wonder all the things that she saw. Moby the puppy still the fight at home more. If these matters make man the free fall. Nobody day, but they all pray hard. Even outlaws are down by law. No GPS, but we all explore. No leftovers, yeah, we eat all. But be left sober, now he drunk us. Everybody is to Christo when it rains.
You're watching African Experts with Vickie Remoe. Welcome back to the show. Are there any questions, Mr. Producer? There's a producer in the background. He gonna tell me if there are any questions. If there are no questions, we will call it a wrap. No, that's fantastic. And when they don't ask questions, it means that like we laid it down so well. You know, you drop all the nuggets. They just like, you know, they collect it all and then it's all good. First of all, it's crazy because last time I saw you was at a funeral and I ain't seen you since. That's a problem.
We change that, but you know, because Charlie life there, it keeps happening. Like today, like this, I'm even in a different location because my life got changed.
In a different location. I know you're in a different location. I can see the location is different. I can feel it.
Yeah, no, I had to make a detour. It's like crazy. Like things happen, but you know, I'll link you.
It's all good. Wait, there's a question. All right. Oh, somebody wants to know, when are you coming to Germany?
Well, what is the COVID situation in Germany? He or she needs to tell us, because Europe, wow, go on.
This
is the one time Africa is in a comfortable lead.
Like no. Oh, and then somebody else wants to know, how soon should we expect MTTU?
Summer 2021. And we're in summer, so don't worry. That means
I was gonna say summer's like next month though. Like
yeah, we're in summer. Yeah, we're in summer. It's coming. Boom. It's coming at you. Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's definitely one of my best buddies at work.
Really? And I haven't even heard it.
I need to come take you. I need to come wine and dine you and play you.
Not that you days when you come pick us in the taxi and we be like,
we come far.
Listen to the record, like with the headphones on in the taxi.
Yeah.
No, that's really, really good. We're always looking for, release it. Okay. Everybody's like super excited. Anyways, if you're following Manifest online already, I'm sure you are, if you're in this conversation, it means that you'll definitely know when his new piece of work will be out. So keep following him everywhere. I mean, I know he's everywhere. We're always following him on the Twitter, which is probably my favorite platform to talk to him and see him. Oh, and somebody else, these people are now making requests for people to, y'all go into his DM and tell him who he should feature in his next work. This is not
that conversation. This is us giving views. we're giving you gems on how to progress our lives. So,
Exactly. With that, we've come to, and I'll tell you, the end of today's African Experts. Not just that, this is the end of this pilot season. When we first started the show 10 weeks
so grand finale.
Yes, this is the grand finale. Save the best for last. When we first started this season, it was to explore the possibility of producing a continent-wide show to bring conversations to you about trending topics, but also just issues that are important for Africans across the continent. I feel like we've done that. We're going to take a production break and basically make it better and then come back after the summer. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Manifest. Thank you to everybody who's been on the show, everybody who's watched the show and shared it and subscribed and all of that. We really appreciate you. But most importantly, I would like to thank our production team in Sierra Leone at vrcmarketing.com, our Sierra Leone's leading media production, communications, and online marketing agency, because they've worked I feel like they worked for 4 months, even though we've only been on air for 2 months. But that's how much production time and energy they really put into it. And it shows in the quality of work that they put out. So thank you to everyone on the team, including Frank Vin, Bob McEwen, Abdulhamid Kanu, Alassane Kargbo, Augustine Kargbo, and Salwa Kamara. And thank you to all of you across the continent and in the diaspora for tuning in. For more on this and other episodes of African Experts, visit us at africanexperts.net, and we will let you know when we'll be back. For me, it's been a fascinating experience connecting with all of you over these 10 weeks. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you. I will see you very soon. Onatata.